Most people talk too much. They use names everyone else uses, and that's exactly why they're forgettable. One word delivered the right way can bypass defenses, trigger emotion, and lock attention onto you without effort. Not because it's romantic, but because it feels dangerously personal. There are nicknames you're never supposed to use, not because they're offensive, but because they reframe how you're seen. Use them correctly, and you stop being just another option. You become the reference point. If you're starting to see how language shapes power, pause for a second. Save this. Because mastery isn't about memorizing words, it's about understanding timing, restraint, and intent. The first forbidden nickname works because it bypasses surface attraction and speaks directly to identity, and identity is where real attachment is formed. Most people respond to what is visible, what is safe, what is socially acceptable to notice, but the mind becomes obsessed when someone recognizes a trait that feels private, earned, or quietly protected. This nickname is never cute, never exaggerated, and never obvious, because obvious traits are already validated by the world and therefore carry no emotional charge. The power comes from naming something that the person already believes about themselves, but rarely hears acknowledged out loud, such as resilience masked as calm, intelligence hidden behind humor, or discipline disguised as ease. When you label that trait with a name, you are not complimenting them, you are defining them, and the brain treats definitions differently than praise. Praise feels good and fades, while definition reshapes self-perception and creates imprinting. The moment someone feels accurately seen without having to explain themselves, their nervous system registers safety and significance at the same time, and that combination is neurologically sticky. This is why the nickname must feel earned rather than given freely, because the mind values recognition that appears selective and intentional. If you introduce it too early, it feels performative, but when it arrives after observation, silence, and measured interaction, it lands as truth rather than charm. The tone matters more than the word because calm delivery signals certainty, and certainty implies authority without force. When spoken casually, almost offhand, the nickname feels like an observation rather than a tactic, and the listener accepts it into their self-concept without resistance. Over time, the brain begins to associate that identity label with your presence because you are the source who named it first and named it correctly. This creates a loop where interaction with you reinforces a preferred version of self, and distance from you creates a subtle sense of loss, not of attention, but of identity affirmation. The obsession does not come from wanting you, it comes from wanting to feel like that version of themselves again. This is also why repetition must be restrained, because overuse turns identity into noise, while rarity preserves meaning. Used sparingly, the nickname becomes a psychological anchor that activates whenever it is heard or even remembered. The forbidden nature lies in the fact that most people are afraid to define others at this level because it feels intimate and risky. Yet that risk is exactly what creates depth. When done correctly, the nickname does not ask for closeness, it assumes it, and the mind follows assumptions more readily than requests. The second forbidden nickname works because it creates the illusion of shared history, and the human brain is wired to protect and invest in anything that feels like us rather than me and you. When a nickname subtly implies continuity, familiarity, or an inside reference, the mind begins to assume emotional depth before it actually exists. This is powerful because the brain hates gaps in narrative. So when a name feels like it comes from a longer story, the listener unconsciously starts writing that story themselves. They begin to imagine moments, memories, and future interactions that justify why that name exists, even if none of those moments have actually happened yet. This is not manipulation through words, but through implication. The nickname doesn't describe a trait directly, it suggests that you already know them in a way others do not, and exclusivity is one of the strongest psychological triggers for attachment. When something feels shared, private, or unavailable to outsiders, it gains value automatically. That value is not logical, it is emotional, and emotion drives fixation. The danger here is subtlety, because if the nickname is explained or justified, it loses its power instantly. Explanation kills mystery, and mystery is what keeps the mind looping. The name should feel natural, almost accidental, as if it slipped out because it already belonged there. This causes a strange internal tension where the listener wonders why it feels right, and that question keeps replaying long after the interaction ends. Timing is critical because if used too early, it feels forced, but when dropped after a moment of alignment, shared humor, or mutual understanding, it lands as confirmation rather than initiation. The brain interprets this as proof of connection instead of an attempt to create one. Over time, the nickname becomes a mental shortcut to emotional safety because it represents being seen within a shared frame rather than as an isolated individual. This is why the obsession grows quietly rather than explosively, because the attachment is rooted in assumed belonging, not overt desire. The listener begins to feel slightly displaced when others interact without that reference, because those interactions lack the same emotional texture. The name becomes a boundary marker, separating you from the rest of the world in a way that feels intimate but unspoken. This is also why repetition must remain minimal, because overuse turns shared meaning into routine, and routine dulls emotional response. When used sparingly, the nickname retains its weight and reactivates the sense of connection every time it appears. The forbidden aspect lies in the fact that most people wait for relationships to form before signaling shared history, but this nickname reverses the order, causing the relationship to form in order to justify the signal. The third forbidden nickname operates through playful dominance, and its power comes from reversing the usual approval-seeking dynamic without triggering resistance. Most people try to win favor by being agreeable, cautious, or overly respectful, which unconsciously positions them as reactive rather than grounded. This nickname does the opposite by implying familiarity, confidence, and quiet authority at the same time. And the key is that it never sounds aggressive, mocking, or needy. It feels relaxed, almost effortless, as if you are already comfortable occupying space in the interaction. The psychological effect is that the listener senses a stable center, someone who is not negotiating for attention, but setting a tone others naturally adjust to. The mind is drawn to that because humans are wired to follow certainty, especially when it is expressed without force. This nickname often carries a light challenge or a subtle frame, something that gently places you one step ahead in composure, not status, and that distinction matters. Status invites competition, but composure invites trust and curiosity. When delivered calmly, the nickname signals that you are unaffected by emotional spikes and therefore safe to lean into. This creates attraction at a nervous system level rather than an intellectual one. The forbidden aspect is that most people are taught to avoid anything that could be interpreted as dominant early on, fearing it will push others away. But the opposite happens when dominance is wrapped in warmth and restraint. The brain does not register it as control, it registers it as leadership. Over time, the listener begins to associate you with emotional regulation and direction, which makes interactions feel smoother and more predictable. And predictability paired with confidence creates attachment. Another critical factor is consistency, because the nickname must align with your behavior, tone, and pacing. If the word suggests calm authority, but your actions show hesitation or overinvestment, the effect collapses. When aligned correctly, the nickname becomes a symbol rather than a label, representing how it feels to be around you. This is where obsession begins to form quietly, because the mind starts craving that emotional state, not the interaction itself. The nickname also introduces a subtle hierarchy without verbalizing it, which removes the need for power struggles and replaces them with ease. The listener does not feel dominated, they feel guided, and guidance feels rare in a world full of emotional noise. This is why the nickname should never be overused, because repetition turns authority into habit, and habit loses its charge. Used sparingly, it lands each time as a reminder of the dynamic rather than an attempt to reinforce it. The psychological imprint deepens because the brain prefers signals that appear natural and unforced. And this nickname, when done correctly, feels like an observation rather than a move, leaving the mind to adjust itself around the frame you quietly set. The fourth forbidden nickname is built on strategic absence rather than presence, and its power comes from contrast. The human brain notices changes in pattern far more than consistent behavior, which is why saying less can sometimes communicate more authority than constant expression. In this case, the nickname is not introduced immediately and not used regularly, even after it exists. That restraint creates psychological weight because the mind assigns higher value to signals that are rare and unpredictable. When everyone else uses names freely, the absence of a nickname from you becomes noticeable, even if it is not consciously acknowledged. That absence creates a small gap of uncertainty, and uncertainty keeps attention engaged. The brain starts monitoring interactions, looking for cues, trying to decode meaning because humans are wired to seek patterns and resolve ambiguity. When the nickname finally appears, it feels earned rather than offered, and that timing makes it land with disproportionate impact. It does not feel like an attempt to create closeness. It feels like recognition that closeness already exists. This flips the internal narrative because instead of wondering whether you want connection, the mind starts wondering what caused the shift, and that question loops. The key is that the nickname is never explained, announced, or highlighted, because explanation collapses value by turning meaning into information. When meaning remains unspoken, the brain treats it as emotionally significant and stores it more deeply. Another critical layer is that the nickname should appear in a moment of calm rather than intensity, because calm moments feel more authentic and are processed as truth rather than impulse. When something personal is introduced without emotional charge, it feels deliberate and therefore credible. Over time, the listener begins to associate the nickname with moments of alignment and ease, which conditions the nervous system to respond positively when it appears again. This creates a subtle anticipation effect, where the mind unconsciously waits for its return, and waiting is a form of investment. The forbidden nature of this tactic lies in resisting the urge to reinforce connection verbally, because most people seek reassurance through repetition, but repetition dulls sensitivity. By withholding, you preserve the emotional edge. The nickname becomes a signal rather than a habit, and signals carry meaning only when they are distinct from noise. This also establishes a quiet power dynamic because you control access to the identity cue without making it explicit. Control without announcement feels natural, and the brain accepts it without resistance. As interactions continue, the absence and reappearance of the nickname creates a rhythm that the listener adjusts to emotionally. And that adjustment deepens attachment because the mind adapts itself around what it cannot predict but wants to understand. The fifth forbidden nickname is the most psychologically potent because it is tied exclusively to private context, and privacy amplifies emotional imprinting more than intensity ever could. The human brain assigns higher meaning to experiences that occur away from public observation because those moments feel unfiltered, intentional, and real. When a nickname exists only in private exchanges, it becomes detached from social performance and attached instead to authenticity. It is not part of how the world sees that person, it is part of how they feel when the external noise disappears. This creates a powerful internal association because the mind separates public identity from private identity, and anything that touches the private self is guarded more fiercely and remembered more vividly. The nickname should never be used around others, never referenced, and never justified because its power comes from being unshareable. When something cannot be shared, it gains emotional gravity. The listener instinctively understands that this name belongs to a specific emotional space rather than a social one, and that space becomes associated with safety, presence, and heightened awareness. Another critical factor is that the nickname should emerge naturally in a moment of calm connection rather than emotional intensity, because intensity can be dismissed as temporary while calm feels true. When a private name appears without emotional escalation, it signals that closeness is assumed rather than requested. The brain responds to assumptions faster than to persuasion because assumptions feel like reality rather than effort. Over time, the nickname becomes a trigger, not just for memory, but for state change. Hearing or recalling it can subtly shift mood, posture, and attention because it is linked to a version of the self that feels understood without explanation. This is where obsession forms quietly, because the attachment is not to a person, but to an internal state that only seems accessible through that connection. The forbidden aspect lies in the discipline required to protect the nickname from exposure. Most people dilute intimacy by displaying it, but display turns meaning into performance. By keeping the nickname private, you preserve its emotional purity. The mind begins to treat it as a boundary marker between the outer world and an inner experience, and boundaries increase perceived value. This also creates a subtle dependency loop because the emotional state activated by the nickname feels rare and therefore important. Scarcity at the emotional level is far more powerful than scarcity of attention. Another layer of impact comes from inconsistency of access, because the nickname should not appear in every private interaction. When it is used